Okay, so this video would be about GSIS, the first of the 4 government non-bank financial institutions that we will be discussing. So GSIS stands for Government Service Insurance System. So this is a fund for government employed individuals who contribute to the fund, which is mandatory basically, and the main benefit is for them to get retirement benefits when they reach the age of retirement, which is normally 60. There have been cases wherein I think they were trying to decrease the retirement age to 55. I'm not sure what happened to that law, but we'll check. All right. So anyway, I have here the module materials. I will link the document in the description. But basically, I just have here a compilation of all the internet resources which we will be checking to get the majority of information about GSIS, alright? So we'll be visiting all of these, the website, the law, the powers given to GSIS, and then we have the main retirement benefits, retirement computation, life insurance benefits, employees compensation, and then of course we have the frequently asked questions, but we're not going to discuss that one, but you can go and check it out when you have particular questions, and then you can also comment below if you have questions as well, particular questions. All right, and then let's discuss this first. The contribution rate. Currently, it's 9% from the member or the employee, and then 12% is contributed by the employer, which is technically the government, because this is for government employed individuals, right? All right, so in total, the amount that they contribute to the fund on a monthly basis is 21%. So that's why one of the reasons why government employees, when they retire, they receive a higher amount of retirement benefit or pension compared to SSS. All right, and then after that discussion, we will be looking at their financial statements or the financial reports. We'll focus on 2019, but they don't have the audited FS yet. Since these are government agencies, basically they are required by law to provide the financial statement. So essentially you can get them from the internet through their website, and they are normally edited by the Commission on Audit, COA, right? So they have the available audited FS for 2018, but we'll be checking only the notes essentially, and then we have the annual report as well provided by GSIS. Okay. When it comes to government agencies, of course, again, they are mandated by law to provide financial statements. As for private companies, if they are registered with SEC, partnerships and corporations, the financial statements that they submit to SEC are also public documents which can be requested by any member of the general public. All right, so they are essentially public documents. So if you are curious about a certain company and their financial situation, you can go to the SEC website. They have this particular service where you can request for those financial statements. All right, that's one of the things I did for my thesis in my master degree. All right, I needed financial information about all the private schools in Quezon. Right? Maybe later I would also be. Anyway, I just quick note on that financial statements are essentially public documents, so we would not get into any kind of trouble accessing these financial statements. All right, so let's go to the websites and the informations. Sorry, information is already plural. So this is their website. I'm putting the video of myself on below on the lower part of the video because I needed to access all these tabs and URLs later. All right, I'm just showing you this so that if you want to check this later on, so you know what you can see, what you can check, right? So you have this information, corporate governance, management directory, login slogan, CSR, GAD. These are essentially required programs for all government agencies. You have your GSIS laws, privacy statement, transparency seal, contacts. You have your active members, pensioners, general insurance overview, and then the mandate, insurance laws, insurance products, G-Care plans, my shield calculator, auto shield calculator, if you want to check how much benefit you're going to get, publications, news, opportunities, quick links. All right. So you have this information, you have the latest news, and all that. Okay, so here we have the law which established the Government Service Insurance System, RA number 8291A. So we're just going to go over certain sections of these, the important ones, right? So the title, an act amending Presidential Decree number 1146 as amended, expanding and increasing the coverage and benefits of the Government Service Insurance System, instituting reforms therein and for other purposes. Alright. So this is an amendment actually. So short title, GSIS Act of 1997. And then you have your definition of terms for GSIS, board, employer, employee or member, active member, dependents. And then you have your primary beneficiaries, secondary beneficiaries, compensation, contribution, current daily compensation, and then the average monthly compensation. These are important terms being used because this is essentially a retirement fund. Okay, and then you have your valued average monthly compensation, lump sum, pensioner, gainful occupation, disability, total disability, permanent total disability, temporary total disability, permanent partial disability. Okay. I think one important point here is this gainful occupation. So let's say you retired at the age of 60 and then you started receiving the retirement benefit. If you suddenly, if you suddenly get employed again, then I think the benefit would have to, cease. You're not going to receive the pension because you're essentially earning still. So that's one thing to take note of. So if you're going to retire, just retire and do something else with your life. Okay, don't get employed if you have no need of it. All right. If normally some people, they still seek employment even after they retired because the pension or the retirement amount is not sufficient for them to support their daily lives, their living expenses. So they are tempted to find another work. But if they get caught by GSIS or SSS, the receipt of the benefits would be halted, and only after they have really stopped working would they resume receiving the pension again. All right, so membership for government employees, effect ng separation, so I think in case of separation they would receive whatever benefits he has qualified to in the event of any contingency. All right. Sources of funds. Main source of funds by the GSIS is of course the contributions by the members and their employers. Okay, and then we have maximum average compensation payable by member employer. Currently 9% by the member and then 12% by the employer. There are certain things here. Instructions on the collection and remittance by the employer. Due dates. Okay. Government guarantee, Section 8. The government of the Republic of the Philippines hereby guarantees the fulfillment of the obligations of the GSIS to its members as and when they fall due. Alright. Section 9, we have the computation of the basic monthly pension. Alright. So there are, options on how to compute. Tapos, I think they're going to get whichever is higher. 37.5%, essentially 37.5% of the revalued average monthly compensation plus 2.5% of said revalued average monthly compensation for each year of service in excess of 15 years. So that's why some people, they prefer working permanently for government, okay, because for every year of your service, there is an additional amount for the pension, okay, in excess of 15 years, okay. So if you work for a government agency for exactly 15 years, so what you'll get is essentially this alone, okay, because this one is computed in excess of the 15 years, all right. Provided that the basic monthly pension shall not exceed 90% of the average monthly compensation. So there's a limit up to 90%. So 37.5% plus 2.5% for every year in excess of 15 years. So let's say you work for 40 years. So in excess of 15 years, you have 25 years. 25 years times 2.5%. How much is that? 25. 60% plus 37.5, so that's what, 97.5, but then the limit is up to 90% only of the average monthly compensation. All right, the basic monthly pension may be adjusted upon the recommendation of the President and General Manager of GSIS, approved by the President of the Philippines in accordance with the rules and regulations prescribed by the GSIS, provided, however, that the basic monthly pension shall not be less than 1,300 pesos. So this is the minimum amount of pension. All right. The pension would, there's still, there's not really a table, but, a percentage of your income. So 9% for the member and then 12% for the employer. So let's say those people who are earning only 5,000 a month, since their pension would depend as well on the amount, their income amount, the average monthly compensation. So if you're contributing based on that amount of income, so essentially it would be low if your income is low, and it would be higher if your income is higher, okay. So you have this person earning, let's say, 10,000 a month, and then you have this person earning 40,000 a month. So although of course that person earning 40,000 would also provide a higher amount, absolute amount of contribution. But in a way, the amount that would be shouldered by the employer government would be, 12% of that amount. So just a thought. Alright, all service credited for retirement, resignation, or separation for which corresponding benefits have been awarded under this act or other laws shall be excluded in the computation of service in case of reinstatement in the service of an employer and subsequent retirement or separation. All right. In case of you retired, but then you go back to service, the pension would cease. And then when you retire a second time, then you'd receive the pension again. All right. But in that case, in your previous computation, credited, your previous years of service are already been credited or taken into account. And then you add, let's say you work for 2 years, so that would be recomputed, I guess, or taken into consideration as well in increasing your pension. So I guess that's why some people also remain with the government agencies for a longer period of time, even after reaching 60 years, so that they could earn a higher amount of pension. All right. Okay, separation benefits, cash payment equivalent to 100% of his average monthly compensation for each year of service he paid contributions, but not less than 12,000 pesos, payable upon reaching 60 years of age or upon separation, whichever comes later, provided that the member resigns or separates from the service after he has rendered at least 3 years of service but less than 15 years. Okay, so two things. Retirement benefits is I think different from separation benefits. All right. Computation, this one, either this A or this one, letter B, a cash payment equivalent to 18 times his basic monthly pension payable at the time of resignation or separation, plus an old age pension benefit equal to the basic monthly pension payable monthly for life upon reaching the age of 60, provided that the member resigns or separates from the service after he has rendered at least 15 years of service and is below 60 years of age at the time of resignation or separation. I think this one applies for early retirement. There are certain individuals who, haven't reached the age of 60 yet, but they feel that they can no longer work, either for, health issues, mainly health issues. And then we have unemployment or involuntary separation benefits. Unemployment benefits in the form of monthly cash payments equivalent to 50% of the average monthly compensation shall be paid to a permanent employee who is involuntarily separated from the service due to the abolition of his office or position, usually resulting from reorganization. Example of reorganization, before you have your NSO and other statistical offices specializing in different departments, but now they've been reorganized to PSA, Philippine Statistics Authority, and then all the other departments, NSO, and all the others that were into research of statistical data back then were merged into the PSA. Okay. Provided that he has been paying integrated contributions for at least 1 year prior to separation. Unemployment benefits shall be paid in accordance with the following. Contributions made, benefit or duration, 1 year but less than 3 years, so 2 months. Yung benefit duration, 3 or more years but less than 6 years, only 3 months. This is unemployment because essentially the thinking is that a little help or financial assistance until you can find your next job, okay, or your next work or employment, right? So in a way, the benefit would also depend on how long you've been in the service, right? 11 or more but less than 15 years, 6 months worth of unemployment benefit. The other information on that, retirement benefits shall be either of these. Lump sum payment as defined in this act, payable at the time of retirement, plus an old age pension benefit equal to the basic monthly pension payable monthly for life, starting upon the expiration of the 5-year guaranteed period covered by the lump sum, or cash payment equivalent to 18 years of his basic monthly pension plus monthly pension for life payable immediately with no 5-year guarantee. Oh, okay. Unless a service is extended by appropriate authorities, retirement shall be compulsory for an employee at 65 years. Compulsory. Okay, so retirement age is 60, but if you still want to work, you can continue until you're 65. And when you reach 65, you are, required to retire already. Compulsory retirement. With at least 15 years of service, provided that if he has less than 15 years, he may be allowed to continue in the service in accordance with existing civil service rules and regulations. Conditions for entitlement. Member who retires from the service shall be entitled to the retirement benefits, provided that he has rendered at least 15 years. Okay, so that's why some people would like to stay. Let's say they started working for the government at the age of 50. So for them to reach, 15 years of service, so they have to work until they're 65, really. He is at least 60 years of age at the time of retirement. So again, you can only retire when you reach the age of 60. There are certain cases where you can retire early for, health reasons, but you can't start getting the pension until your age 60. And then third is he is not receiving a monthly pension benefit from permanent total disability. So you can only avail or claim one benefit at a time. Okay. Periodic pension adjustment. The monthly pension of all pensioners, including all those receiving survivorship pension benefits, shall be periodically adjusted as may be recommended by the GSIS actuary and approved by the board in accordance with the rules and regulations prescribed by the GSIS. Permanent disability benefits, conditions for entitlement. So who suffers permanent disability for reasons not due to his grave conduct, notorious negligence, habitual intoxication, or willful intention to kill himself or another. So basically, the reason for the disability should not be, intentional. Okay, I would harm myself so that I would be rendered disabled. So that would not, what do you call this? That would not be acceptable reason for you to avail of the disability benefits. They should, come naturally, and sometimes it would have happened during the days or that you are working. Alright. Subject to the corresponding conditions provide therefore Section 16, permanent total disability. If the permanent disability is total, he shall receive a monthly and income benefit for life equal to the basic monthly pension effective from the date of disability. Alright? So it doesn't matter if he's already 60 or it doesn't matter what his age is. Okay, but here are certain conditions. He is in the service at the time of disability. If separated from the service, he has paid at least 36 monthly contributions within the 5-year period immediately preceding his disability. So if he's working now, he was found disabled, permanent disability. So in the last 5 years, he must have contributed 36 monthly contributions. So that's 3 years, right? Provided further that if at the time of disability he was in the service and has paid a total of at least 180 monthly contributions, how many is that? 180, 15 years. In addition to the monthly income benefit, he shall receive a cash payment equivalent to 18 times his basic monthly pension, provided finally that a member cannot enjoy the monthly income benefit or permanent disability and the old age retirement simultaneously. Alright, so it's just one. If you're already receiving the permanent total disability benefit, so that's also for life. Okay, so in a way, you cannot, if you're already receiving that, you can no longer file for the retirement. Okay, when you reach the age of 60, but it's essentially the same type of, it's a pension as well. Letter B, if a member who suffers permanent total disability does not satisfy conditions 1 and 2, these two, but has rendered at least 3 years service at the time of his disability, he shall be advanced the cash payment equivalent to 100% of his average monthly compensation for each year of service he has paid contributions, but not less than 12,000 pesos, which should have been his separation benefit. Okay, so essentially, if you only work for 3 years, you'll only be getting 100% of your monthly compensation. So if you're receiving 20,000, you'll only be receiving 20,000 for each year of service. So let's say 3 years, so that's only 60,000 pesos. That's your disability benefit, okay, under this situation, letter B. So in a way, it's really better if you have worked for a long time in the agency or in the government office. Alright. One of the reasons why I think people prefer working for the government, because the benefits are really better, okay, and the amounts are considerably higher. Unless the member has reached the minimum retirement age, disability benefit shall be suspended when he is reemployed. He recovers from his disability as determined by the GSIS, whose decision shall be final and binding. He fails to present himself for medical examination when required by GSIS. The following disabilities shall be deemed total and permanent. Right? Complete loss of sight of both eyes. Essentially, what it means to have total permanent disability is that, it's not recoverable and it would hinder you from getting work again. Okay, so you have here complete loss of both eyes. You can no longer work properly. And most of the time, it's irrecoverable. All right. Loss of two limbs or at or above the ankle or wrist, so you cannot walk in this instance. Permanent complete paralysis of two limbs, so cannot work as well. Brain injury resulting in incurable imbecility or insanity, so cannot work if you're... Yes. Such other cases as may be determined by the GSIS. Permanent partial disability, alright, so we have here cash payment. The following disabilities shall be deemed permanent and partial. Complete and permanent loss of the use of any finger, any toe, one arm, one hand, one foot, one leg, one or both ears, hearing of one or both ears, sight of one eye, such other cases as may be determined by the GSIS. Temporary disability. Okay, so we have a member who suffers a temporary total disability for reasons not due to any of the conditions enumerated before, shall be entitled to 75% of his current daily compensation for each day or fraction thereof of temporary disability benefit not exceeding 120 days in one calendar year. Okay, so essentially, it's like you're given a break to adapt to your disability, which is what do you call this? Temporary. Okay. If you lose one finger, well, it's probably not going to hinder much of your work, probably, which is the assumption. And you're given only, not exceeding 120 days after exhausting all his sick leave credits and collective bargaining agreement, sick leave benefits. Okay. After which, you'd have to return to work so that you start earning again. All right. 120 days. 4 months. Sorry. Alright, and then provided that he is in the service at the time of his disability, if separated, he has rendered at least 3 years of service and has paid at least 6 months contributions in the 12-month period immediately preceding his disability, provided, however, that a member cannot enjoy the temporary total disability benefit and sick leave pay simultaneously. Okay, so one of the two. Otherwise, it's going to be double compensation. Provided further that if the disability requires more extensive treatment that lasts beyond the 120 days, the payment of the temporary total benefit may be extended by the GSIS, but not to exceed a total of 240 days. Double, so 8 months. Okay, so depending on the situation, but it has to be, with approval from the GSIS. Temporary total disability benefit shall in no case be less than 70 pesos a day times 120 days. Okay, it's actually depending on how much time is needed for you to recover or adapt to the disability, partial disability. Okay, so they count it as, on a daily basis. It's not really 120, it's just, the limit, not exceeding 120 days. If you recovered after 30 days or after 60 days, then that's the only amount of benefit that would be computed for you. And then after that, you go back to work and then you have to, start earning again for yourself. The notices required of the member and the employer, the mode of payment, and the other requirements shall be provided in the rules and regulations. Okay, non-scheduled disability for injuries or illnesses resulting in a disability not listed in the schedule. The GSIS shall determine the nature of the disability and the corresponding benefits therefore. Alright. Survivorship benefits. Okay, when a member or pensioner dies, the beneficiaries shall be entitled to survivorship benefits. In sections 21 and 22, here under subject to the conditions. Alright, so this is actually sad. Let's say you're 60 years old, you filed for retirement, and then you started receiving, and then you die at the age of 61 or 62. So basically, you've only retired for a year or two and you haven't enjoyed the benefits and, for you to do what you want. You may have been, wanting to travel or visit places or whatever you want to do for your retirement. But in any case, this happens as well when the pensioner dies early. So we have the so-called survivorship benefits, okay? So the basic survivor pension, which is 50% of the basic monthly pension. So, if the pensioner is receiving 10,000, the survivorship benefit is 50%, so 5,000 only. And the dependent children's pension not exceeding 50% of the basic monthly pension. If there are still dependent children, 18 years of age or below, not gainfully employed, or if more than 18 years old, disabled. All right. So that's the, what they call this, condition for being a dependent of a retired. That of a member. So, ayan. Nagkakaroon ng survivorship pension. Was in the service at the time of death, separated from service, has at least 3 years of service at the time of his death, has paid 36 monthly contributions within the 5-year period immediately preceding his death, has paid a total of at least 180 monthly contributions prior to his death. Okay, and then I have other information. I can kindly read this. So just a computation of how much the survivorship benefit would be. Alright? So we have that, and then we have funeral benefits. Shall be determined and specified by the GSIS in the rules and regulations, but shall not be less than 12,000, so that's the minimum amount. And it shall be increased to at least 18,000 pesos after 5 years and shall be paid upon the death of an active member, a member who has been separated from the service but who may be entitled to future benefit, or a pensioner or a retiree who at the time of his retirement was of pensionable age under this act but who opted to retire under RA 1616. Okay, I'm not sure what that is, but we'll check maybe. Life insurance benefits. Alright, compulsory life insurance. All employees except for members of the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the Philippine National Police shall, under such terms and conditions as may be promulgated by the GSIS, be compulsory covered with life insurance, which shall automatically take effect as follows. For those employed after the effectivity of this act, their insurance shall take effect at the date of their employment. For those whose insurance will mature after the effectivity of this act, their insurance shall be deemed renewed on the day following the maturity or expiry of their insurance. For those without any life insurance, as to the effectivity of this act, their insurance shall take effect following said effectivity. Okay, and then we have dividends. Annual dividend may be granted to all members of GSIS whose life insurance is in force for at least 1 year, in accordance with a dividend allocation formula to be determined by GSIS. Optional insurance, subject to the rules and regulations. A member may apply for insurance or pre-need coverage embracing life, health, hospitalization, education, memorial, and such other plans as may be designed by the GSIS for himself or his dependents, or his dependents. An employer may likewise apply for group insurance coverage for its employees. The payment of the premiums or installments for optional insurance and pre-need products may be made by the insured or his employer and/or person acceptable to the GSIS. Reinsurance, alright, and then we have adjudication of claims and disputes, whether it's going to be approved or declined. Alright, so you have your claims and disputes. So you have this, you have your disputes, you have your appeal, you have your execution of decision, oaths, witnesses, and production of records. Alright. Then we have funds of the GSIS. I'd like to read this one. All contributions payable under Section 5 of this Act, together with the earnings and accruals thereon, shall constitute the GSIS Social Insurance Fund. The said fund shall be used to finance the benefits administered by the GSIS under this Act, In addition, the GSIS shall administer the optional insurance fund for the insurance coverage described in Section 26 hereof, the Employees' Compensation Insurance Fund created under PD 626 as amended, the General Insurance Fund created under Act Number 656 as amended, and such other special funds existing or that may be created for special groups or persons rendering services to the government. The GSIS shall maintain the required reserves to guarantee the fulfillment of its obligations under this Act. Okay, liquidity. Okay, they're talking about the convertibility of the investments into cash so that they would have, preferred cash or available cash to disburse and to give out for the existing claims or existing benefits. The funds of the GSIS shall not be used for purposes other than what are provided for under this Act. Yes. Moreover, no portion of the funds of the GSIS or income thereof shall accrue to the general fund of the national government. It's separate. Okay, and its political subdivisions, instrumentalities, and other agencies, including government-owned and controlled corporations, except as may be allowed under this Act. Section 35, deposits and disbursements. All revenues collected and all accruals thereto shall be deposited, administered, and disbursed in accordance with the law. A maximum expense loading of 12% of the yearly revenues from all sources may be disbursed for administrative and operational expenses up to 12%, except as may be otherwise approved by the President of the Philippines on the basis of actuarial and managerial studies. Ooh, wait, they do have a limit. It's 12% for GSIS. I'd like to see how much it is for SSS. Okay, I just noticed, SSS has been, very vocal about deficit, about having loss, about the fund life being only a few years. But when you think about it, I don't hear GSIS complaining about such things. And when you think about it, it's essentially, they're essentially providing the same service only to different groups of people. GSIS for all government employees, SSS for private employees and self-employed individuals. So what's going on? Okay, so basically I have a series that I'll be preparing for that. Might be, some things to check into. Anyway, Section 36, investment of funds. The funds of the GSIS which are not needed to meet the current obligations may be invested. Yes, they do. Under such terms and conditions and rules and regulations as may be prescribed by the board, provided that investment shall satisfy the requirements of liquidity, safety, security, and yield in order to ensure the actuarial solvency of the funds of the GSIS. Okay. If you notice, these were the principles of the banking business, right? You have liquidity, safety, security. Yield is equivalent to profitability. Provided further that the GSIS shall submit an annual report on all investments made to both houses of the Congress. Lower house, and then of course, the upper house. Wait, why is it called Congress? Anyway. Interest-bearing bonds or securities or other evidence of indebtedness of the government of the Philippines. So treasury bills, they can invest the GSIS fund in treasury bills. In interest-bearing deposits or securities in any domestic bank doing business in the Philippines, provided that in the case of such deposits, they shall not exceed at any time the unimpaired capital and surplus or total private deposits of the depository bank, whichever is smaller. Provided further that said bank has prior designation as a depository for the purpose by the Monetary Board of the Central Monetary Authority. So I think GOCC as well, Land Bank, DBP, Alamana. Indirect housing loans to members and group housing projects secured by first mortgage, giving priority to the low-income groups, and in short and medium-term loans to members such as salary, policy, educational emergency, stock purchase plan, and other similar loans. Okay, so they do provide loan services to all the members of GSIS. Okay, most types of loans. Okay, one way that they also earn okay, from that activity because, interest. Provided that no less than 40% of the investable fund of the GSIS social insurance fund shall be invested for this purpose. Okay, so there you have a limit. Only up to 40% of the investable fund can be loaned to these purposes, right? Salary loan, educational loan, housing loan, etc. In bonds, securities, promissory notes, or other evidence of indebtedness of educational or medical institutions to finance the construction, improvement, and maintenance of schools and hospitals. In a way, they're also, what do you call this? Supporting certain industries. All right, so you have here education and medical. In real estate property, including shares of stocks involving real estate property and investment, secured by first mortgage on real estate or other collateral acceptable to the GSIS, provided that such investment shall, in determination of the board, redound to the benefit of the GSIS, its members, as well as the general public. Okay, as a government agency handling the public's money, they do have a certain obligation or responsibility to ensure that the investments they are making redound to the benefit of the public, of the fund itself, and essentially the public. Well, the members and then the public. In debt instruments and other securities traded in the secondary markets, in loans to or in bonds, debentures, promissory notes, or other evidence of indebtedness of any solvent corporation created or existing under the laws of the Philippines. In common and preferred stocks of any solvent corporation or financial institution created or existing under the laws of the Philippines, listed in the stock exchange with proven track record or profitability over the last 3 years, and payment of dividends at least once over the same period. So they can also invest in stocks and bonds, right? In domestic mutual funds, including investments related to the operations of mutual funds, in foreign mutual funds, and in foreign currency deposits or foreign currency denominated debts, non-speculative equities, and other financial instruments or other assets issued in accordance with existing laws of the countries where such financial instruments are issued, provided that these instruments or assets are listed in bourses of the respective countries where these instruments or assets are issued. I don't think I understood that part. Provided further that the issuing company has proven track record of profitability over the last 3 years and payment of dividends at least once over the same period. So, profitability and then declaration of dividend. They do check that. Next, we have Section 37, Records and Reports. Okay. They have to keep and cause to keep such records as may be necessary for the purpose of making actuarial studies, calculations, valuations of the funds of the GSIS, including such data needed in the computation of rates of disability, mortality, morbidity, separation and retirement among the members, and any other information useful for the adjustment of the benefits of the members. The GSIS shall maintain appropriate books of accounts to record its assets, liabilities, income, expenses, receipts, and disbursements of funds, and other financial transactions and operations. Examination and valuation of the funds. The GSIS shall make a periodic actuarial examination and valuation of its funds in accordance with accepted actuarial principles. In a way, because their fund is high value, every government employee is contributing to the fund, and then the counterpart employer, the government agencies or offices, they're contributing to the fund. Essentially, the amount of fund is very big, and then they're put into different types of investments. So these investments they could be, fluctuating in value. You have real estate, you have bonds, you have stocks, and then you have the loans to members. So in a way, they do apply actuarial principles to get the value of those particular investments every year, so that they could make their reports, financial statements. All right. So they are tasked with the examination and valuation of the fund, so that they could also, check whether, how long can the fund continue to operate. with how things are going and with the current financial condition that the fund is in. So we have exemption from tax, legal process, and land. I'm not going to read that. Administration, implementing body. We have the powers and functions. I'd like to read this. To formulate, adopt, amend, and/or rescind such rules and regulations as may be necessary to carry out the provisions and purpose of this Act, as well as the effective exercise of the powers and functions and the discharge of duties, responsibilities. Wait, what? Invest funds of the GSIS directly or indirectly in accordance with the provisions of this Act. Acquire, utilize, dispose of in any manner recognized by law, real or personal property in the Philippines or elsewhere necessary to carry out the purposes of this Act. To conduct continuing actuarial and statistical studies and evaluations to determine the financial condition of the GSIS, taking into consideration such studies and evaluations and the limitations herein provided. Readjust the benefits, contributions, premium rates, interest rates, or the allocation or reallocation of the funds to the contingencies covered. Power of succession, sue and be sued. To enter into, make, perform, and carry out contracts, every kind, yes. Borrow funds from any source, private or government, foreign or domestic, only as an incident in the securitization of housing mortgages of the GSIS and on account of its receivables from any government or private entity. To invest, own, or otherwise participate in equity in any establishment, firm, or equity, if they can invest in stocks. To approve appointments in the GSIS, except appointments to positions which are policy determining, primarily confidential, yes. To design and adopt early retirement incentive plan. I like the sound of that. To fix and periodically review and adjust the rates of interest, other terms and conditions for loans and credits extended to members or other persons, whether natural or juridical. To enter into agreement with SSS or any other entity, enterprise, corporation, or partnership for the benefit of members transferring from one system to another. Yes. So if you're a government employee and then later on you resign, you go to a private company instead. So, you know, your membership would be transferred as well from GSIS to SSS. Although there are certain people which says that you can actually choose to continue your membership with one or the other. I think it's, you know, if you're from SSS and then you go to GSIS, you can continue your membership in SSS as a voluntary member. Okay, so when you retire, you get two retirement benefits, two pensions. But of course, you'll be contributing to both. So it's just, I think it's fair still. Alright, so submit annually a public report to the President of the Philippines and the Congress of the Philippines regarding its activities in the administration and enforcement of this Act during the preceding year, including information, recommendations on board policies for the development and perfection of the programs of GSIS. They do provide annual report, and they are also required, of course, to submit or present their financial statements. To maintain a provident fund which consists of contributions made by both the GSIS and its officials and employees and their earnings for the payment of benefits to such officials and employees or their heirs under such terms and conditions as it may prescribe. To approve and adopt guidelines affecting investments, insurance coverage of government property, settlement of claims, disposition of acquired assets, privatization or expansion of subsidiaries, development of housing projects, increased benefit and loan packages to members, and enforcement of the provisions of this Act. Okay, so what else? Any provision of law to the contrary, notwithstanding, to authorize the payment of extra remuneration to the officials and employees directly involved in the collection and or remittance of contributions, loan repayments, and other monies due to the GSIS at such rates and other such conditions as it may adopt, provided that the best interest of the GSIS shall be observed thereby. Okay. So, best interest of the GSIS. To determine, fix, and impose interest upon unpaid premiums due from employers and employees. Okay. They do impose, a deadline on when the employer should remit the payment of the contributions. And if you go beyond the deadline, of course, there would be interest, or penalties of some sort. To ensure the collection or recovery of all indebtedness, liabilities, and/or accountabilities, including unpaid premiums or contributions in favor of the GSIS, arising from any cause or source whatsoever due from all obligators, whether public or private, the board shall demand payment or settlement of the obligations referred to herein within 30 days from the date the obligation becomes due, and in the event of failure or refusal of the obligator or debtor to comply with the demand, to initiate or institute the necessary or proper actions or suits, criminal, civil, or administrative or otherwise, before the courts, tribunals, commissions, boards, or bodies of proper jurisdiction within 30 days reckoned from the expiry of the period fixed in the demand within which to pay or settle the account. So, in case they have they provided loans to certain individuals or groups, so they have that recourse that if there is default in payment, so they're going to file a case or make a demand. If they still don't pay, then file a case. So there are other, what do you call this, clauses, statements. Section 42 about the BOT, composition, tenure, and compensation. I'd like to see the compensation. Oh, here it is. The members of the board shall be entitled to a per diem of 2,500 pesos for each board meeting actually attended by them, but not to exceed 10,000 pesos a month. Ooh, okay, so if it's 10,000 pesos a month, to 5 per meeting, so 4 meetings a month, and reasonable transportation and representation allowances as may be fixed by the board. Wow. When you think about how the SSS is like 40,000 per meeting, we're going to check that. Okay, when we discuss SSS in a separate video, we'll check. But I'm surprised that in GSIS they have a maximum of only 10,000 a month. Wow. Okay. Anyway, powers and functions of the Board of Trustees. Appointment, qualifications, compensation of the President and General Manager. I'd like to see the compensation. Okay, sorry. It's not provided here. Auditor, we have the Commission on Audit. Legal Counsel, we have the Government Corporate Counsel. And then powers of the Insurance Commission. Then we have the general provisions, dispensation of social insurance benefits, processing, development, and disposition of acquired assets, penal provisions, penalty, commission of fraud, collusion, falsification, misrepresentation. So you have your fines here, imprisonment, or both. Fails to comply, officers, anyone who would, do something unlawful or contrary to the terms of the law, of course, would have to be punished. Alright. Okay. So even the members of the GSIS board, including the chairman, vice chairman, if they fail to comply with the provisions, shall be subject to imprisonment of not less than 6 months, nor more than 1 year. So 6 months to 1 year. A fine of not less than 5,000, nor more than 10,000. So 5,000 to 10,000, without prejudice to any civil or administrative liability which may also arise therefrom. Alright. Criminal actions arising from violations of the provisions of this Act may be commenced by the GSIS or by the aggrieved member, either under this Act or in appropriate cases under the revised Penal Code. Wait, paragraph W. Where is that? Anyway, other sections, we have implementing rules and regulations to be made Non-impairment of benefits, power, jurisdiction, rights, privileges, functions, and activities, exclusiveness of benefits. Whenever other laws provide similar benefits for the same contingencies covered by this Act, the member who qualifies to the benefits shall have the option to choose which benefits will be paid to him. However, if the benefits provided by the law chosen are less than the benefits provided under this Act, the GSIS shall pay only the difference. Okay. Okay, so I'm still not clear whether you can be a member of both GSIS and SSS. Right, later we'll check appropriations, separability clause, repealing clause, effectivity. Alright, so this is from 1997. Okay, so I have tabs here open for retirement, computation, life insurance, employees compensation, but I think we've already discussed this while reading or going through the contents of the Act. So I'm going to stop here, and then I'm going to have a part 2 for discussion of GSIS, separate video for a look into their financial statements and their annual reports. Alright, so I'll end this video here. Here's the link for the frequently asked questions if you have particular information that you'd like to check, so you can visit this page and check this out. So you have your majority of this are about the loans that they provide for their members. Alright, so that's it for this video. Thanks and bye.